What is up, YouTube? I am Eric and you are watching Retro Video Game Pickups. In this video, we're going to talk about, are there too many classic consoles? So if you like games, consoles, product reviews, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification. With that being said, let's hop into it! Okay, so let's talk about some classic consoles. As you can tell, I've got a few out here that I already own, and there's a few to come, but I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about them and what I think about classic consoles. So, way back when, there used to be Atari Flashback consoles that were okay, and there were also Sega Genesis consoles that were just also kind of cheaply made and not really taken seriously. You could buy them and play cheap games, but realistically you were getting what you paid for, and that was cheap, crappy consoles, which came with weird peripherals, like those really bad Sega Genesis controllers that didn't really work that well. Well, a few years ago, we were blessed with the NES Classic, and if you know that this thing came out and sold absolutely insane. I don't even think Nintendo thought that this would sell as well as it did. Now, we saw the release of this and then the big outrage of, well, not really outrage, but more like lack of game consoles. You couldn't get the NES Classic if you didn't get it the first wave or the second wave, and those waves were very short and there was a very limited run. So that made this thing almost near impossible, and it was so sought after that these things were selling for $300 or $400 on eBay when they first released, which is absolutely insane to me. Now, thankfully, I got mine from a coworker when he bought it for his kids, and like 2 months later they stopped playing it pretty much, and he was like, hey, do you want to buy this? And so I bought it for retail price and bought him lunch. So I ended up well worth it for me, and he got a lunch out of it, so he was pretty happy. So that was how this I guess trend or new fad came about. Was Nintendo made the NES Classic, and man, did it blossom. It sold out all over the place, especially with Christmas coming up. So I probably got mine in January, right after Christmas, and I was happy about it because realistically the games that are on here that come preloaded, I already have them in cart form behind me. You guys probably know that. And if I didn't have them, I think I actually have all of them, but if I didn't have them, they were just ones that I wasn't too worried about. But the awesome thing about this is, not long after it was released, someone was able to hack it. Now, putting the ROMs on it is not illegal, but depending on how you get the ROMs could be illegal. So I say be cautious about that. All the games that I currently have on this are like 10 extras right now because I don't load it up. I just put on the games that I want to play, and then next time I load more games up, I'll take those games off just because I don't know, that's how it's working for me. So with that being said, almost all of the ROMs that I do have on here are back on my shelf. That just either is easier to record, or I can just hook it up to my HD TV and not have a problem with it. So that is why I use this thing with ROMs loaded onto it. Now we're going to move to the SNES Classic, which again sold a ton of. I think Nintendo realized that the NES sold so well that I want to say they either doubled or tripled the production run of the SNES Classic, which brought this back around at about the same time. But the SNES Classic came with that beloved Star Fox 2, which is something that I loved about this console. Is Nintendo said, hey, we've got this game in our pockets from the 90s, why don't we throw it on this system and people will go out in droves. I mean, people lined up for this almost as much, if not more, than they did for the SNES Classic, because there was that new game that no one had ever seen officially licensed by Nintendo. Now, there are some ROMs on the internet from it, but you have never been able to pick up a Nintendo console and play that game on it, and that was one of the great things about it. Now, this is a great little system as well. It even folds out here. Nah, I'm not gonna mess with it. For the controller ports, which is really cool, and that is something that is really sweet and totally awesome. Now, we're going to change it up and talk about something that a lot of people, from my vantage point, have given the NeoGeo Classic Mini, whatever you want to call it, a bad rap, which is kind of a bummer because I absolutely love this thing. I know why people complain about it or things why they don't like it, but this thing, I'm planning on making a video about this thing later on. So you guys, I made an unboxing video of it, but I want to make a video to show you guys what I think a month later, and that's coming up later this month. But man, this thing is really looking like it's going to be something that I'm going to play a lot of. So I know people talk bad about it and they had their reasons, and I understand some of those reasons, like the joystick or maybe the weird button layout change or whatever it is that people don't like about this. But honestly, this screen is actually really great. The dimension of it is perfect for those old retro games from the arcade. And that is one reason I love this thing, because I myself have an MVS. I don't have it in an arcade machine. I have it actually been consoleized, so I can actually plug it into my TV and play it. But that thing is like this big. No lie. I mean, it's literally like the board that big that I have to go and get out, plug it in, and then I have to get my controllers and play it. But this thing has 40 of the games that are really heavy hitters. I know there's some games missing, but this thing really is great. If you are a big NeoGeo fan and you don't necessarily have access to an AES or an MVS, I think this is the next best thing. Now, I personally, I don't know where it is. I personally have a NeoGeo Pocket Color as well. But man, this thing is so great. The games are already preloaded on it, and I don't have to worry about anything about it. Now, it does have all the standard things. Controller ports are on the side. Yes, this was $100, this was $60, and this was $80. But to be honest, this has a screen, so I'm understanding of why it was $100. I think that's just a little bit too much for people, so I understand that. Now we're going to move forward to the new ones that have been rumored to be coming out and some that are actually coming out. So the PlayStation 1 has been announced for the Mini Classic Edition, whatever you want to call it. That is coming out, I want to say this month before Christmas, and honestly, the games on it are just kind of, they're good games, don't get me wrong. If you pick these games out, I would say, I will play that, I will play that, I will play that. But it's not the heavy hitters that the NES or the SNES or even the NeoGeo had. And that's one thing that I was kind of disappointed on, is are we getting to the time where it's hard to get licenses for these games? I know I wanted to see Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PS1, but I understand why it wasn't. They just released it with Rondo of Blood for the PS4, so I understand why they didn't want to take sales away from that. And you didn't get a Crash game. You didn't get a lot of things that I would have preferred. You've got Medieval, which is coming out on a remaster for the PS4, and that's another one that didn't make it. And there's just games on games on games that I could list off that didn't make it. But it seems to be a little pricey at $100. Now, you think about it, it's only 20 bucks more than this. It's the same price as this, and it's 40 bucks more than this. Well, the problem is, this came with 2 controllers. It comes with 2 controllers, so that's $20 difference. It doesn't really matter there. I think this is well worth it compared to the PlayStation 1. But it doesn't have a power adapter to the wall. I guess they assume that you're going to plug it into your TV. But the real big thing about this is it doesn't have dual analog sticks, which is a big deal. There's some games you can't even play without those. So those were obviously left out. I'm looking at Ape Escape. I think that's what it's called. I may be forgetting, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. That's a really fun game. I just wish that they would figure that out. Now, there's been a ton of rumors about the Nintendo 64 Classic, which I think is gonna fall in that same kind of ballpark where we're gonna see the Nintendo games, and we're gonna love those, but I don't think you're gonna see many third-party games. You talk about having rare games on the system, or not having rare games on the system, I should say. You're talking about not having GoldenEye, you're talking about not having Banjo-Kazooie or Jet Force Gemini. There's a bunch of games that are just automatically not going to be on there because other companies and licenses own those, and they're just not going to give them up to Nintendo. Now, with that being said, I know that Nintendo and Microsoft are really working together well, and that could possibly mean that we are going to get some of those good games like Banjo-Kazooie or Jet Force Gemini. But those are games that I doubt we'll see, but if we do, that'll be awesome. So my question was, are we getting too many console classic mini consoles in too short of a time? And I think that's a definite yes. So these companies need to make sure before they do that they have the emulation down pat. This was not hard to emulate. This was not too hard to emulate. There's some things that are hard to emulate, but not too many. And this thing was pretty easy itself as well. But the more you get into it, when you get into 3D graphics and all that stuff, there's problems emulating it. There's some 64 games that still have problems to this day. And I just don't know why or how we could fix that. Hopefully Nintendo knows, but I'm very interested to see where that goes. Now, are the prices gonna jack up? Because if I see a Nintendo 64 Classic, I'm hoping it's gonna be that $80, and then I'm gonna probably end up spending $40 to get more controllers for this thing. Because if it is not a 4-person machine, that's gonna really suck. Because you've got the Nintendo 64, you've got all those cool party games that I think you would just be lost without those 4 controllers. So that's kind of my idea. I definitely do think we may be rushing into this too much, and I think Nintendo might have a good plan to say, hey, let's take a step back here. Let's not release anything this year, and let's release something in 2019 or 2020 that will bring the money in, but we will still be able to produce good content. Because I think the PlayStation 1 might have been rushed a little bit to get it out this holiday season, and I think that's definitely shown by the games that are on the console. So with that being said, if you guys would, please comment below and let me know, what do you think about the console classic crisis, I guess? I don't know. But we're seeing too many of them, I think. What do you guys think? Please let me know below in the comments. Now, don't forget about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Big Cartel, Patreon. All this stuff is down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. But most importantly, have a good day.